It's Tuesday, May 9. In the headlines, Jamaicans urged not to use unfinished roads. In business news, NCB Insurance Agency launches online pensions portal. Regionally, direct flights between Barbados and Tobago. Internationally, Chicago struggles to house a migrant influx bust from Texas. And in sports, Olympian Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce is the 2023 Laureus World Sportswoman of the Year. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The National Works Agency is warning persons against using sections of the Southern Coastal Highway now under construction. The warning follows a fatal two-vehicle crash along the closed section of the St. Thomas leg of the highway between Albion and Grand Spen. NWA's Manager for Communication and Customer Service, Stephen Shaw, gave the warning during a think tank session at the Jamaica Information Service. We have more in this report.
3 persons died following the two-vehicle crash, which occurred on April 25. Mr. Shaw described the crash as unfortunate, while he warns against using unopened sections of the highway.
It is something that we are particularly concerned about. We have met with the consultants on ground. We have met with China Harbour, and we have sought to bolster our safety measures along the road.
He says the National Works Agency and the contractor China Harbour have erected physical barriers along the roads, but that has not proved a deterrent.
But you still have those unruly persons who go and physically remove these barriers to allow themselves and others to use sections of these corridors that are not yet in use. And it is something that we have expressed concerns about before, where persons use even heavy equipment like a front-end loader to remove the heavy barriers that are there in order to gain access.
Mr. Shaw notes similar incidents in Hanover and other sections of the island.
We have roads, we have bridges that we have said to persons, do not enter, do not attempt to use, but people still go and use them. We had a recent situation over there in Hanover where the Woodsville Bridge, which was closed for about a year or so, we put physical impediments there. We dumped loads of material. Persons removed the material. They were using it. Of course, the bridge recently collapsed. Thankfully, no one was injured in that particular situation, but it's not the first. You know, I recall in Portland, the driver bridge collapsed under the weight of a truck.
Mr. Shaw is urging persons to take responsibility for their own safety and obey the road signs. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Carla Thomas Hewitt.
Thousands of Jamaicans will be able to get free blood pressure screenings on Wednesday, May 17, as the country recognizes World Hypertension Day and commemorates the National Health Fund's 20th anniversary. CEO of the NHF, Everton Anderson, says the screenings are aimed at helping people to be aware of their blood pressure numbers and focus more attention on hypertension and its impact on well-being. In Jamaica, hypertension affects approximately 25% of the population. The condition has the highest number of enrollments under the NHF card program. The NHF is collaborating with the Ministry of Health and Wellness, the Medical Association of Jamaica, non-governmental organizations and churches to carry out the blood pressure screenings, which will also take place at select drug-served pharmacies and clinics island-wide. For more information about the NHF's blood pressure screenings, please call the Customer Service Center at 876-906-1106. That's 876-906-1106. Why are we seeing a rising number of COVID-19 cases in some parts of the world? How is the virus evolving? What do governments and people need to do to live with COVID-19 safely? Dr. Maria Vankakov explains in this episode of Living Healthy.
We are talking to Dr. Maria Vankakov today. Welcome, Maria. Let's start with these rising numbers of COVID-19 that we are seeing in some countries. Maria, talk to us about what does that mean?
Hi, Vismita. Thanks for having me back again. There are a number of reasons why we're seeing increasing cases in a number of countries. First is that the virus continues to evolve. Since Omicron first emerged, we have had more than 900 sublineages of Omicron in circulation, and we're tracking each and every one of those, and we'll come to those in a moment. The other reason is that we have a lifting of public health and social measures. So people are living their lives, and they're living their lives as safely as possible because we have increasing vaccination coverage around the world, and we have increasing level of immunity from vaccination and or past infection. But that immunity does wane over time, which means people can be infected. And the combination of variants that emerge that have increased transmissibility, which means they can infect people more easily because there are properties of immune escape, means that people can be reinfected again. So this is something we will have to deal with going forward. Right now, we are seeing an increase in case reporting from a number of countries around the world. For example, one of these countries is India. And one of the reasons why we are seeing an increase in case detection is likely because of the sublineage XBB.1.16. XBB.1.16 does have increased transmissibility, but we have not yet seen a change in severity. Another reason why we're likely seeing an increase in case reporting from India is because one of the last big waves of infection that India experienced was the Delta wave, and that was quite some time ago. While we are seeing an increase in case reporting in a number of countries around the world, we are not really seeing an increase in hospitalizations and deaths. It's not true in all countries. We still see hospitalizations, and at the present time, we estimate that hundreds of thousands of people are in hospital each week due to COVID-19. But because we have access to diagnostics, early clinical care, and the use of antivirals, and safe and effective vaccines, people who are infected or reinfected with SARS-CoV-2 are not dying as frequently as they were in the beginning of this pandemic when we didn't have treatments and we didn't have vaccines.
Maria, talk to us about how the SARS-CoV-2 virus is evolving.
The more the SARS-CoV-2 virus circulates, the more opportunities it has to change. This is what viruses do, and this virus continues to evolve in the fourth year of this pandemic. We've had Omicron variant of concern in circulation for more than a year now. We have two variants of interest that we are tracking in terms of tracking its transmissibility, its severity, and its impact on our interventions. And we have risk assessments that are published online. This is XBB.1.5 and XBB.1.16. We also have a number of variants under monitoring that we are tracking.
Maria, like you said, this virus is here to stay, and we have to learn to live with SARS-CoV-2 circulating and COVID-19. What does that mean for individuals as well as government?
We need governments to ensure access to rapid diagnostics and making sure that people are tested very quickly so that they get into the clinical care pathway, that governments have access to these antivirals so that people can be treated very quickly so that they don't develop severe disease. We have to work on increasing primary vaccination coverage, particularly in low and middle income countries. And we have to ensure those who are most at risk for severe disease receive the boosters according to need. We also need governments to focus on surveillance to ensure that we are tracking this virus. And as individuals, it's really important that you know what your risk is and you take steps to lower your risk as you're living your lives. First and foremost, get vaccinated and get boosted if it is recommended for you. It's not only important if you were vaccinated, but when your last booster was. And take measures to keep you and your loved ones safe. And remember, we're also concerned about post-COVID-19 condition and the potential effects of repeat infections. There is a lot more that we know about this disease 4 years in, but there are still quite some uncertainties.
Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
NCB Insurance Agency has launched a new portal that allows people to sign up for a pension plan online. Antonio Spence, Senior Vice President at NCBIA and Fund Managers, says the new portal will allow for both businesses and individuals to create plans.
We have persons, for example, who always wanted to get a pension plan set up. They may not have known exactly how to go about it. It may have felt very imposing, very intimidating. We've provided a space for them to be able to go online to get that process started. You have another set of individuals that either own businesses in Jamaica or who are employed, and in that business place, there is no structured pension arrangement.
Mr. Spence added that a NCB account is not required for those wanting to join, and people close to retirement may also sign up.
We have persons, for example, who always wanted to get a pension plan set up. They may not have known exactly how to go about it. It may have felt very imposing, very intimidating. We've provided a space for them to be able to go online to get that process started. You have another set of individuals that either own businesses in Jamaica or who are employed, and in that business place, there is no structured pension arrangement. Individuals may become members provided that they are between the ages of 18 and 69, and also provided that they are not contributing to another approved scheme. So once they are residents of Jamaica, then they are eligible to enter. You may have someone who could actually be contributing to another scheme and they want to switch. Those persons are also eligible.
For your market updates, in foreign exchange trading for Monday, May 8th, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.98. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $115.33. The pound sterling traded for $194.23, and the euro sold for $172.44. In JSE trading, the JSE index advanced by 2,274 points. The junior market index advanced by 1 point. The combined market index advanced by 2,137 points, and the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 741 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 109 stocks, of which 42 advanced, 48 declined, and 19 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Variable Preference, Access Financial Services Limited, and Blue Power Group Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers Limited. Trading firm were AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, and CAC 2000 Limited. The overall volume leaders were Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with over 5 million units, One-on-One Educational Services Limited with over 2 million units, and the Fostrich Company Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Calypso Macro Index Fund posted 4 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Goddard Enterprises Limited was the sole security trading over 6,000 shares. In regional business in Antigua, progress is being reported in the venture capital component of the Prime Minister's Entrepreneurial Development Program. The program's director, Garfield Joseph, says this is one of the avenues for the diversification of the country's economy. Garfield Burford reports.
Director of the EDP, Garfield Joseph, is bullish on the prospects for the diversification of the country's economy by capitalizing on the potential of the blue and orange economies. Now, these involve using the country's resources in its exclusive economic zone or its territorial waters, as well as the cultural and creative industries.
From the blue economy, there are 2 sources of potential revenue. You have the energy side, where you can use the wind, the wave action to generate electricity, energy, and you also have the food piece. Now, having said that, we have the natural resource, but it's also true that we are capital constrained. We need a technology and we need a capital.
He insists the EDP can help in nurturing business ideas to diversify the economy, both through capital and capacity building. So far, the EDP has made available some $4.7 million in loans to small and medium-sized enterprises and provided training to over 500 individuals. In relation to the venture capital component of the EDP, he says 2 prospective projects are being considered.
We have had a couple of projects, but I think persons sometimes are a little bit risk averse, and we want to say to them, we're bullish. There are a number of opportunities in the local economy. Come partner with us. We need to work together, we need to collaborate, and that's the push that I continue to make.
Under this component, the government provides support and takes a stake in the project, which could then be bought back by the entrepreneur as the business thrives. Joseph also indicates what else is on the horizon as the EDP seeks to turbocharge a culture of entrepreneurship in the country.
Just had a conversation with the Ministry of Education, going into the schools, teaching entrepreneurship, helping civil society, helping private employers. So it's not just the money. I always say the money is the easy piece. The money is in the bank. How do we build intellectual capacity, build people's know-how so we can get to the next level? And that's what we're all about.
In market data for oil prices fell, relinquishing some of the strong gains of the previous two sessions. Brent crude was down 68 cents at $76.33, and West Texas Intermediate crude fell 69 cents to trade at $72.47. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, a direct flight from Barbados to Tobago has officially been launched. The Tobago Tourism Association Limited, in partnership with Caribbean Airlines, hosted a press conference on Monday to talk about the new flights expected to make travel between the two destinations more affordable and accessible. Crystal Hoyt has the details.
Barbadians now have access to direct flights to Tobago. The island is described as unspoilt, untouched and undiscovered, with lots to offer tourists, from hiking to birdwatching, diving and waterfalls. Alicia Edwards, executive chairman of the Tobago Tourism Association Limited, spoke to media during a press conference here in Barbados about the new flights. It's the result of a partnership with Caribbean Airlines that will see flights twice weekly from Grantley Adams International Airport to A&R Robinson International Airport.
BW 212 and 213, which connects Barbados and Tobago directly. The flight moves between the islands on Wednesdays and Sundays, and it's a 1-hour hop, and it gives our destinations the opportunity to connect to each other seamlessly. If you would have wanted to visit Tobago beforehand, you would have had to go to our bigger and sister island, Trinidad, and then do a 25-minute hop across to Tobago. The new flight is 55 minutes long, and so in addition to cutting down the airtime and the difficulties of moving from plane to plane, it just makes it easier for people to get to Tobago.
Ms. Edwards has no doubt that Barbadians are in fact interested in Tobago as a destination. That's because their research shows that the #1 regional web searches for the island come from Barbados. While many complain about the cost of interregional travel, she says the ticket prices are comparatively reasonable.
A huge cost component of the tickets is the taxes and the charges that have not been waived by our governments. There have been quite a bit of discussions and agreements on paper at the level of CARICOM to reduce the level of taxes so that it will allow the cost of moving between the region to be cheaper. That has not happened, and travel and tourism and the ease of movement of interregional people would be easier if we honor the agreements that were made at the level of CARICOM and free up the movement so that we can get to know our Caribbean brothers and neighbors at a lower cost.
Ticket prices for a round trip range from $400 to $450 Barbados dollars. Crystal Hoyt, CBC News.
The Grenadian government is setting a foundation to ensure that students leave the education system more well-rounded. GBN News has that story.
Government will launch its TVET program that reintroduces skills training in primary schools on Tuesday morning at the Woburn Methodist School. This is just one of several initiatives intended to enhance the quality of education provided for students in Grenada. Education Minister David Andrew made the announcement during the recent sitting of the Senate as he revealed plans to make education mandatory up to the age of 18 and to expand the capacity of the tertiary institutions in the country.
We are putting things in place to do two things. One, to legislate that education be made mandatory till age 18. Rather than leaving school at 16, 15 turning 16, 16, and us going on the breadline and saying, I want to work on creating further problem for programs like the Imani program, we are going to give them these additional 2 years, mandatorily. That's currently being looked into, to give them that opportunity to get further skill to address many of the skills gaps.
He also disclosed government's intention to fulfill its promise to make education free of cost for students, including the TMRSU Community College.
We are already doing the preparatory work to make sure that TAMC tuition fees are no longer something that our students and their parents will have to find come September 2022. Give some table number for that. 2023, yeah. So my staff, they're working currently to do all the behind-the-scene numerical figures and calculations with TAMCC, setting up a framework to ensure that who registers and who duly gets into coming out of secondary school, that we have a mechanism to do the transfer of payments and all of that.
Government is also working towards reintroducing history into the school's curriculum for the upper primary students and lower secondary students. Civics will also be reintroduced.
So the material will be ready. There are training seminars planned for the Summer Institute that we're going to have in July during the break to prepare our teachers to use the material.
In addition, Minister Andrew announced more scholarship opportunities for students in collaboration with Dr. Randy Glean, a professor of Grenadian descent who is associated with Illinois University.
He is organizing a visit of several of his high-powered university team members, some of them presidents and all of that, to visit Grenada in June 2023 to scout and to share of the opportunities and to discuss potential collaborations with about 6 or 7 universities in the United States and Canada with whom we can have collaborations.
Cherry and Blackman Stephen, GBN News.
It is estimated that Guyana lost more than $1 trillion invested in graduates of the country's national university who moved abroad. The figures were provided by Vice Chancellor of the University of Guyana, Professor Paloma Mohamed Martin. More in this report.
For decades, Ghana has been one of the countries in the region grappling with a phenomenon known as the brain drain. That is, the emigration of its skilled citizens. Now that the country is experiencing rapid growth and is seeking skills and investments from members of the diaspora, they are seen as crucial. But the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Paloma Mohamed Martin, said the country should appreciate the dynamics of migration and study those more.
Given the state-subsidized nature of the university, its funding is estimated in both terms of direct costs and opportunity costs that Guyana might have lost. We might have lost over $1 trillion through the immigration of our graduates to other countries, mostly in North America and the Caribbean, over the last 5 decades. So you see, diaspora work is not only about bringing people back, it's about really considering what we have given and what it has cost our country for people to go back to places.
The Vice-Chancellor was speaking at the opening ceremony of the university's second Diaspora Engagement Conference, and there, stakeholders agreed that diaspora engagement is crucial to the country's development. Beyond the university's efforts, though, head of the Diaspora Unit at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Rosalinda Rasul, posited that diaspora engagement in recent years has been robust.
Remigration of birth for second-generation diaspora and first-time passport applications for overseas-based Guyanese are in the thousands. The numbers are so high that a lot of our service agencies are currently under pressure to supply documents within the stipulated time, notwithstanding their own challenges they are facing outside of their control. And here is the insight on how government will proceed with future diaspora engagements through its programs. It will be practical, fact-based, measured, thoroughly devised and structured, inclusive and development-driven.
With many coming back to Ghana, the Foreign Affairs Ministry is pushing efforts to digitize diaspora services. Reporting for the newsroom, I am Vishani Raghaber.
In international news, the city of Chicago has been welcoming thousands of migrants arriving from the southern U.S. border, but the city is struggling to find resources to support the growing numbers. Al Jazeera's John Hendren reports.
2,000 kilometers from the U.S. southern border, the migrant crisis has arrived in Chicago.
I want nothing more than a job. It doesn't matter where. I just want to work.
Charlie and his daughter, Venezuelan migrants, are living in a police station, the last refuge in a city where a surge of new arrivals has overwhelmed shelters.
People are coming here with so many needs, and they're still not being met because the existing infrastructure is not set up to meet those needs. What they're then being directed to do is go to a police station because there aren't enough shelter beds.
The tidal wave of new migrants is real, but the crisis in cities far from the border is at least in part manufactured. Many have been bused from Texas, where Republican Governor Greg Abbott has been sending them to sanctuary cities run by pro-immigration Democrats, where local officials like Rosana Rodriguez Sanchez scramble to feed, house, and clothe them.
The United States could totally absorb a lot of these migrants and have an actual program that is humane. What is happening right now is a political agenda to try to deplete sanctuary cities of resources.
Chicago has welcomed wave after wave of immigrants from Ireland, Poland, India, China, and more recently, enough from Latin America that the city is now 1/3 Hispanic. But city leaders say the latest wave has strained its resources to the breaking point. In a recent letter, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot pleaded with Abbott to stop the busing, saying, treat these individuals with the respect and the dignity that they deserve. There is no national plan to cope with the sudden influx of migrants to sanctuary cities across the U.S.
Denver, Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, we should not be burdened the weight of this problem.
Chicago leaders have designated this school as a migrant center, but many residents don't want it in their neighborhood.
I am just outraged. I'm outraged, and I don't understand why our community was chosen.
That leaves migrants living, sleeping, and eating here.
I want to stay here in Chicago with my kids so they can study and I can work.
They face an uncertain future, along with many others, with Texas vowing to bus more migrants to the sanctuary city. John Hendren, Al Jazeera, Chicago.
In sports, Olympian Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce is the 2023 Laureate World Sportswoman of the Year. The ceremony took place in France and honored sportsmen and women for their excellence over the 2022 calendar year. In her acceptance speech, Fraser-Pryce said she hopes her role as a woman, athlete, wife, and mother is seen as an inspiration for other athletes with multiple life goals. Jamaica Olympic Association President Christopher Samuda says Fraser-Pryce continues to be what he describes as an inspiration for young Jamaican women. These sentiments were shared by JOA General Secretary Ryan Foster, who, like Fraser-Pryce, is a Wolmerian. He says the award is long overdue. In other sporting news, the Trinidad and Tobago senior women cricketers got off to a second-place start in their CG Insurance Women's Super 50 Cup in St. Kitts.
First against Barbados women, they could only muster 161 all-out and 43.5 overs. Opener Chanel Sow top scored with a patient 68. The only other score of note was Brittany Cooper, who got 32. Alison Gordon and Kayla Elliott took 4 wickets each. Barbados women made light work of their chase, getting there in 38.3 overs. Alea Elaine top scored with 48 not out to lead her team to 162 for 4. Steffi Sugrim did well with ball in hand, taking 2 wickets for 36 runs. The Red Force ladies next take on Jamaica on Wednesday.
And that's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. Thank you so much for watching.